Hello, my dear listeners. I hope you're all doing well. Today, I would like to talk about something very ordinary, something most of us do without even realizing we are doing it. We wait. We wait for Monday. We wait for the weekend. We wait for the children to grow up. We wait for things to settle down. We wait for the right job, the right amount of money, the right time, the right mood. And sometimes we wait so long that we forget what we were waiting for in the first place. Have you ever said, I'll start exercising from next month, or I'll learn English properly when I have more time? I'll travel when the kids are a little older. I'll buy that dress when I lose some weight. I'll start reading when things become less hectic. I'll call my old friend this weekend. And then the weekend comes and goes. Another week begins, then another month, and suddenly you're saying the same thing again. I'll do it someday. There is something very comfortable about the word someday. It doesn't say no, it simply says not today. And that's exactly what happened to a woman named Shalini. Shalini was 41. She lived in Jaipur with her husband Rajiv and their two children. She wasn't unhappy. That was the interesting part. If you asked her, are you happy? She would probably say, yes, of course. She had a loving family, her children were doing well in school, her husband had a stable job, they had their own home, they were not rich, but they were comfortable. Life was good, just busy, always busy. Shalini's day started at 6 in the morning. Before she even got out of bed, her mind had already started making a list: breakfast, lunch boxes, school uniforms, laundry, grocery shopping, her mother's doctor's appointment, a bank payment, a school WhatsApp message she hadn't replied to, and somewhere between all of that, she had to remember to drink water, which of course she usually forgot. By 8:30, the children were out of the house. By 9, her husband had left for work. And finally, the house became quiet. Shalini would stand in the kitchen, look at the clock, and think, okay, now I have some free time for myself. But then she would notice the dishes, then the laundry. Then her phone would ring, and just like that, her me time would disappear. She had a small notebook. It was kept inside the second drawer of her bedside table. On the first page, she had written, Things I want to do someday. And underneath it, there were 12 things: learn to speak English confidently, learn photography, start walking every morning, visit Kashmir, read more books, learn to cook a few new dishes, meet her college friends, start painting again, take a solo trip, learn how to use video editing app, start a small online business, and spend more time doing things just for myself. She had written that list 6 years ago. 6 years. And when she opened the notebook now, almost everything was still there, unticked, unfinished, waiting. One Sunday morning, Shalini was sitting on the floor, folding clothes. Her daughter Ria came into the room. Mom, did you ever want to become a painter? Shalini looked up. Why? I found these. Ria held up a few old paintings. They were Shalini's: watercolors, a mountain, a small house, a woman sitting beside a window, a sunset. They were not professional paintings, but they were beautiful. Shalini smiled. I used to paint. Why did you stop? Shalini shrugged. Life happened. Ria looked confused. What does that mean? Shalini laughed. It means I got busy. Ria looked at the paintings again. You should paint again. Shalini smiled. Maybe someday. Ria nodded. Okay. And she walked away, just like that. But the word stayed with Shalini. Someday. That evening, Shalini opened her old notebook. She looked at the list. She laughed. Then she felt a little embarrassed. 6 years, she whispered. How did 6 years pass? And that's the strange thing about time. We don't notice it while it's leaving. Monday looks like Monday, Tuesday looks like Tuesday. The children go to school, the bills get paid, dinner gets cooked, someone gets promoted, someone gets married, someone moves away, a child grows taller, a parent grows older, and one day you suddenly realize years have passed. The following week, Shalini received a phone call from her old college friend Pooja. They had not spoken in years. At first, the conversation was awkward. How are you? I'm good. How's the family? Everyone is good. You? I'm good too. That familiar, polite conversation. And then they started laughing. They remembered college, the ridiculous clothes they used to wear, the terrible canteen food, the professor who scared everyone, the dreams they had at 21. They had been so sure about the future. They were going to travel, start businesses, learn new things, see the world, and somehow they had spent the next 20 years simply trying to keep up with life. Pooja suddenly said, Shalini, do you remember our Kashmir plan? Shalini laughed. We have been talking about Kashmir for 20 years. Exactly. We are ridiculous. Let's actually go. There was a pause. Shalini looked at the laundry basket beside her. She looked at the clock. She thought about her children, her husband's work, her responsibilities. Then the familiar sentence appeared in her mind. Maybe later. But this time, she didn't say it. Instead, she asked, when? Pooja laughed. Next month. Shalini smiled. Okay. And that one little word, okay, changed something inside her. Of course, the trip was not easy to arrange. There were school exams, there were household responsibilities, there were things to organize. Shalini almost cancelled twice. That one evening, her husband looked at her and said, You've been talking about this trip for years. I know, then go. But Shalini will manage. She looked at him. You really don't mind? Why would I? She laughed. I don't know. He shook his head. Sometimes I think you need permission to enjoy your own life. That sentence stayed with her. A few weeks later, Shalini was standing at the railway station with a small suitcase. She had never traveled with a friend like this before. No husband, no children, no family schedule, just her. She suddenly felt nervous. What if I get bored? What if something goes wrong? What if I miss home? Pooja looked at her. What are you thinking? Nothing. You have that face. What face? The face you make when you're overthinking. Shalini laughed. Maybe I am. Pooja picked up her suitcase. Come on. And they boarded the train. The first few hours felt strange. Shalini kept checking her phone, messages from home, children, husband, family group. She replied to everything. Then Pooja gently took the phone from her hand. She put her phone away, and for the first time in years, she looked out of a train window without thinking about what needed to be done when she got home. They talked, they laughed, they ate railway food they normally would have complained about. They took silly photographs, they got lost once, they argued about directions, they bought things they didn't need. They stayed up late talking about life, and somewhere between one station and another, Shalini realized something. She hadn't become a different person. She hadn't simply given herself permission to be the person she used to be: curious, playful, spontaneous, a little foolish, a little adventurous, alive. When she returned home, nothing had magically changed. The laundry was still there, the kitchen still needed cleaning, her children's school schedules were still busy. Life had not become easier, but Shalini had changed the way she looked at it. She opened her notebook again. The same list was there. She took a pen and instead of writing someday, she wrote actual dates. Painting, Saturday. Morning walk, Monday. Call college friends, Sunday. Photography class, next month. Visit Kashmir, done. She smiled. Then she turned to a blank page and wrote, Things I don't want to postpone anymore. The next morning, she woke up at 6. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. She went for a walk. It wasn't a perfect walk. She got tired. She came home sweating. Her hair was messy. She looked terrible. And she was happy. Sometimes we wait for perfect conditions to start life, but perfect conditions rarely arrive. There is always something: the weather, the money, the children, the workload, the timing, the fear. Life gets in the way. So sometimes you have to make the most of what you have. A few months later, Shalini started painting again. At first, she painted for 20 minutes on Sunday afternoons, then 30 minutes, then an hour. One day, her daughter came into the room. Mom, you're actually doing it. Shalini looked at her. Doing what? The painting thing. Shalini smiled. Yes. Rhea looked at the painting. It's beautiful. It's not that good. Her daughter shook her head. Mom, you always do that. Do what? You never let yourself enjoy something without finding a problem with it. Shalini looked at her painting, then smiled. Maybe I'm learning. And perhaps that's what life is. Not one huge transformation, not suddenly becoming fearless, not waking up one morning and becoming a completely different person. Sometimes it's just one small decision, one phone call, one walk, one book, one trip, one painting, one yes, one no, one thing you finally stop putting off. A year after that first trip, Shalini found her old notebook again. She opened it. The first page still said, Things I want to do someday. She smiled. Then she turned the page. She wrote, Someday isn't a day on the calendar. She underlined it. Then she added, if it matters to you, give it a date. My dear listeners, maybe you're waiting for something too. Maybe there is a dream you have put on the back burner. Maybe there is a friend you haven't called. Maybe there is a place you have always wanted to visit. Maybe you've been waiting to learn something new. Maybe you've been waiting to become confident before you start. But here is the thing, confidence often comes after you begin, not before. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need perfect circumstances. You just need to take the first step. As the saying goes, better late than never. So if there is something you've been putting off, perhaps today is a good day to stop saying, I'll do it someday, and start saying, I'll do it on Saturday. Because that's how dreams stop being dreams. They become plans, and plans become life. Well, that's where we all leave Shalini tonight. Not with a perfect life, not with everything crossed off her list, but with something much more valuable, a life she's actually participating in. So before you leave, I want you to ask yourself three simple questions. What have I been postponing? What am I waiting for? And most importantly, what can I do this week, not someday, but this week, to move a little closer to it? Maybe it's something very small, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to change your whole life tomorrow. Just start somewhere, because before you know it, another year will pass. Time doesn't wait for us to feel ready, so don't wait for the perfect moment. Sometimes you have to make the moment perfect by simply showing up for your own life. Thank you for spending this little part of your day with me. Take care of yourself, make some time for the things that make you happy, and if there is something you've been saying someday about, maybe, just maybe, it's time to give it a date. Good night, my dear listeners, and I'll see you in the next story.